Hello YouTube. Um, Welcome to my first video of that contains my voice and my face as well. And this video is just primarily going to be about my hobby, which is collecting records here in Singapore, and how I got into it, that kind of thing. Just a little talk, and a little sharing of my personal experience. First, I would like to say that this video is unscripted, so of course there'll be times where it can get very awkward, and I apologize if I mumble sometimes, because I realize that seems to be a problem. Inherited for me, I suppose, and I will try my best to speak clearly, and I hope you all understand what I'm saying. So without any further ado, I shall start sharing, I suppose. So I got into this hobby last year, like in around May. When I was a kid and all, I always knew that these things existed, like records, cassettes, VHS, your Betamax and Laserdiscs. I knew that these things were real and they were used primarily back in the day. How I knew it was stuff like cartoons and all, like regular show and all. They had all those VCRs there, all those 80s, 90s references, I suppose. And as a kid, I was always rather interested, but never really went full on into detail, I suppose. So that enthusiasm mostly lay dormant until around last year. And last year was when I started this hobby. Technically speaking, I was only 13, and I just bought my first turntable on that day. If you read my biography, you know that I'm a student. I'm 15 years old now. I'm studying in Singapore. I live in Singapore. And one thing I have to say about living here is that the records here, they aren't cheap. That's the first thing I have to say. So as a student, of course, this is a bit troubling, because I have to save up every penny I can save, I suppose, from my pocket money, and then channel it into this hobby. It was around like March, I would say, when I started having some videos of turntables and stuff in my recommended, videos to watch on YouTube. So eventually I became more and more interested in records until I wanted to get a turntable. And I remember on the May of 19th, I got it. It was at a bookstore actually. I got the ATLP60 USB variant. We went on that specific day because there was a sale there. There was a store-wide sale for all items, and that sale, because it cost more than $150 when at that sale, there was another discount that was added to it, so eventually it only cost me around $140. And then after that, I went to a nearby record store and got my first two records, which was Carole King's Tapestry and Young Malmsteen's Trilogy album. These two records. And of course, at the bookstore, I also got the stylus cleaner for it, and eventually I got my record brush a few weeks later. Like I said, I live in Singapore. If you don't know where Singapore is, you can just Google right now. For the people who are too lazy to Google right now, it's basically this island-sized city-state country that's just slightly above the equator in the Southeast Asia region. So this place is considerably far away from places like the UK and the US. So importing records from there to here, or from places like Japan, because I know some stores here, the owners, what they would do is that the owners of some of the stores here, they actually go to these countries and they handpick them. So some of these record stores, there is guaranteed quality because he will choose ones that are like very good condition, VG plus or near mint condition ones. So from these countries, Japan, UK, US, these places. So when they bring them here, because of the shipping, they need to bump up the prices. So the average price of a record here, I would say, is $20, 20 Singapore dollars. One Singapore dollar is equivalent to approximately one US dollar is equivalent to approximately 1.4 Singapore dollars. So for you Americans out there, you can do the calculation now. But like I said, I'm a student. I don't have a job. I actually do have a job. My job is to study, get my grades, so that I can, land some office job. I don't know. Reason why I kind of got into this is because music's my hobby as well. I play the piano since very young, and nicely this hobby fits hand in hand, with me studying music and all. Recently I actually took my ABRSM diploma in performance for piano in March, although I failed because of the quick study section, and I do plan to retake it. For people out there who don't know this, for the ABRSM diplomas, if you fail one section, you fail the whole exam. Yeah. And I want to apologize upfront first if I sound very blunt if I'm speaking, because also again another bad habit, I suppose. This is unscripted. I'm saying whatever comes into my mind, so something that comes out may not be so nicely polite and all, or maybe may not be phrased that well, and I hope you forgive me for that. Now moving on, slowly I have built my collection, which is up there on that shelf, although I won't really want to show it today. And I would say there's around 30 records there, considering adding up the singles and all. 30 records, 35, maybe 40 records. Last time I checked, it was around 30. And I have a couple of cassettes up there as well. I've gotten cassettes. After a while of those turntables, I got myself a boombox, although now I have an actual cassette deck, although it has an issue. I got a Panasonic RX D29, and I also got a couple of cassettes and all. Started building up a cassette collection, playing them as well. Eventually, when I got my turntable, I started researching more into other things like cassette decks and all, and one thing I realized was just how beautiful these machines can be. And then I got into looking at more obscure formats, like your 8-track, reel-to-reel, Betamax. Although I won't say Laserdisc is obscure, but it is rather expensive back in the day, and although not really now. Now prices are quite cheap, but you get what I'm trying to say. This turntable thing eventually led to another thing, and now my hobby will be like getting all these equipment and formats, because I really like to see them in operation, understand the concepts behind them and such. So as I was saying, this video is primarily supposed to be about my experience, and I don't think I've touched much about it as of now. So at least my personal experience is that most of these store owners, they like to give discounts to me, which I really do appreciate, and I thank you for it. I don't know, maybe probably it's because it's a rare sight here, at least, that a teenager is walking in there and actually willing to buy something for himself and listening to them himself. I visited a couple of places, a couple of shops here. There are actually plenty of shops here in Singapore as well. And although I say the Western titles and all, because they have to ship them from overseas, it will cost more than if you go to a thrift store in the US or something. I know that thrift stores in the US and other thrift stores around the world, they have very cheap deals. I've heard of stuff like $1 per record, and I wish it would apply here in Singapore, but unfortunately that is not true. But one thing that might interest people who like Chinese records is that the shops here, all of them seem to stock a number of Chinese records, like from places like China, Hong Kong and Taiwan. So if you want to look for Chinese records and you're interested in Chinese artists, I don't know much Chinese artists, there are a couple of names, like Cai Jin and all, but if you're interested in Chinese music, you can come by here and visit the shops and check it out. Most of these shops are second-hand ones, like most of the records will be used records, but there are some stores that will also import new records, like like new releases. One I would say is the Analog Vault, which is located in Esplanade. That one, they do new releases, modern releases of different genres, alternate music and all that. The environment is around the record stores here is also very friendly. Some of the shops, you go there and then after that you chat with the owners or chat with the other customers there and discuss about music and all. Personally, I haven't really talked much because I'm rather shy about stuff like that, and I'm shy about putting this camera in front of me here and talking about this as well. So, and this is my first time doing this. This is first time putting it on, so I'm also very nervous here. And so basically that's about the records here in Singapore, at least I would say. And so bargain bins, come to think of it, not really many of these shops have bargain bins actually. I've seen some bargain bins in some shops, but I flipped through them and I can't really find anything. But I do buy stuff from bargain bins from time to time, like for example the first one I put up, which is BJ Thomas helped me make it to my rocking chair, which I actually have right here prepared for the video. This one I got for a 3 for $10 bargain bin. It was basically 2 boxes, and then you could pick 3 and it would cost $10 for all 3 of them together. So ignore the sticker here, this doesn't count. It was 10 divided by $3, so $3.30 I suppose. It's in really good condition. You can go listen to the video. Not really a video, it's just me putting the music on YouTube, but like you can see the condition, it's actually really great. Although if you look from here, it's slightly warped when I put it on the turntable, but other than that, this plays absolutely fine. And I do like this album, and since I couldn't really find it on YouTube, decided to just put it up so that in case anyone wants to look for it, can enjoy. For any people of my age, like teenagers, or if you want to get into records, I say go ahead, because why not? Why I got into this, kind of for multiple reasons actually. You can achieve great sound with records and cassettes and all, but if you're fine with Spotify MP3 or something, then go ahead, or power to you I suppose. But with buying records like this, I like to see the record spinning on the turntable. You can see the nice big artwork here. You can read up a bit, the back, the liner notes, the lyrics. And since some of the records are from Japan, some of them also have Japanese lyrics and these Japanese survey cards in them. So all what I consider to be relics of the past, you know, that kind of thing. And that really does excite me a lot. So that's about it, you know. Got into this hobby mostly because I like all this old stuff. I got an interest into this old equipment, vintage equipment, I suppose, and I had the feeling that I wanted to, like, you know, own a copy of the music, because, you know, one thing people like to say is that, oh, if you listen to music on iTunes or Spotify or those kind of streaming services, you're not really owning a copy of the music. And I kind of agree with that, because you can't really feel that you know, you can't feel it, you can't touch a digital file, you know. You can touch a record, you can touch a cassette, you can even touch a CD. And I also collect CDs as well from thrift stores and all. And because there are thrift stores in Singapore, but I can't find any records or cassettes in it, it's just pretty much obscure CDs and movie DVDs. But yeah, you can get these kind of things. And I like to have this, what I would call physical music, because it makes me feel happy and makes me feel that, you know, I'm enjoying something, you know. It may seem that you're throwing away money, you know, when you can just listen to stuff on YouTube and all. That's what most people tell me, actually. Like, why don't you listen on YouTube, or why don't you listen to the streaming? Why don't you buy Spotify Premium or something like that? Say it's because, well, I want to have this collection, or a physical collection. And also, of course, I've heard stuff about Spotify's MP3s compression and all. I rather prefer if the audio file I'm going to listen to is untouched, you know, in any way regarding EQ or anything. So that's about that for this hobby. Basically, it's just me talking about this hobby, and I do have other hobbies as well. I like several other things as well. I like planes. I like tea, brewing tea, although we don't really have any apparatus for brewing tea. We have a gongfu brewing set downstairs, and sometimes I brew tea in it as well. But you to any teenagers want to collect, no, like, I'd say go for it. Why not? But just gotta remember a few things, because recently one of my friends actually asked me about it, because his sister wanted to get into his hobby as well. So I had to talk to him about some things regarding his hobby, and which is the same advice I'm gonna share to y'all watching here, which is stuff like you have to be vigilant. You have to be careful when researching about this. I spent hours researching on this turntable thing before I even bought a turntable, because what I discovered along the way is that there's actually a lot of bogus advice out there in the vinyl community. You know, of course, some of y'all may heard of those audiophile snobs, but not all audiophiles are snobs. Personally, me myself, I'm an audiophile as well. I would like to hear high quality sound, high fidelity sound, if you like to call it that. But I'm personally, at this stage at least, I'm fine with listening to music from this beginner entry turntable, because this is actually I would say, is a good idea for beginners, because this is geared towards them. It's not hard to set up a turntable like the ATL B60. If you were to give a beginner an advanced turntable, say you want to give a beginner a Technics SL1200, and you want him or her to calibrate it, like set the tracking force, set your anti-skating and all that, I don't think he or she is going to be comfortable with that. And something tells me he or she is going to muck it up. And especially with things like cartridge alignment and all those nitty-gritty bits, trouble you take setting up the turntable, that is not beginner friendly at all. So for beginners, no matter what your budget is, I suggest that you start low first. Start at the beginning. Because you don't know, maybe you may give up on this hobby. Who knows? My parents actually kind of offered to get an ATL P120, but I thought I'll stick with this first in case I give up on the hobby, because one thing about this is that you gotta be committed. This takes in a lot of money. This hobby is extremely hungry for money in this country. So as you see this, like for example this shirt. This shirt is a few years old already. I have never like bought an item of clothing or a pair of shoes with my own money ever yet, because I'm not really interested in those things. Wear the same pair of shoes to school every day, and they got washed at the end of every week, and no, they're not really that dirty because well, I don't really like to play sports. No, I'm not really an active person, so these shoes are relatively clean. I just walk, take a bus to school, go back, that kind of thing. My shoes are fine. I use the same pair every time I go out. Those pairs of shoes and Crocs. The Crocs I wear are a couple of years old as well, but they're nice, they feel good, and trust me, I love Crocs. I really love Crocs. I go out sometimes with them on, most of the time with them on actually, like if we're gonna have a meal at a nearby hawker center or something. I've once went to Esplanade to watch a concert in Crocs before. I am not even joking. I love those shoes. Are they even shoes? I love those things way too much. And as clothing, the clothing I wear at home when I go out and all, it's also quite old actually, but they are comfortable. They may look a bit out of place, like fashion wise and all, but they are comfortable. They aren't tattered or worn out anyway. They're still fine. Some of them have bits that are a bit torn out, but they get sewn back together. And yeah, generally it's fine. Like I don't spend money on these things so that I can channel the money into this one hobby. It's sort of needs dedication. So I say for beginners, you want to know that if you are really interested in this and want to dedicate the money into this, so it's best to start out with a beginner turntable. And also at the beginning, you need to slowly build up your knowledge about turntables and all. You can't just earn it all with like a bit of research. This kind of thing needs time and effort. And also you need to learn stuff like how to care for records, how to clean them properly, taking care of a stylus, taking care of the record, how to store them, like storing them away from heat, humidity, storing them side by side. So this is the record, here are the other records side by side and not horizontally, because if you do it this way, the weight might result in it warping. If you stack like maybe like 2 or 3 for an hour or even a day, probably nothing's gonna happen to them. But if you have a big stack here and it's gonna be like, this is the way you're gonna stack them and gotta store them, then of course it's gonna result in the bottom ones warping. And I haven't experienced that before, but I can understand they'll warp because each record like weighs about what, 120, 130 grams? Because nowadays, especially nowadays, everything is being pressed on 180 gram heavyweight vinyl. So if you stack these things together, 10 of them is already more than a kilogram. So it's going to be quite heavy and it's not going to do well for the records, I suppose. So that's that. And you also need to know other things like cartridges, stylus, cleaning a stylus. If you want to play 78 RPM records, the shellac ones, the vinyl ones are fine with the standard size, but for the like shellac records, need a needle that is larger, a stylus that's larger. Otherwise, it will damage and will destroy the standard stylus. There are specific sizes for it, 0.7 mil stylus, whatever. Kind of forgot the measurement for it, but you get what I'm trying to say. There are these things, beginners, you will need to know, and it'll be good if you start with this basic equipment so they can get comfortable with it and all. When I first started collecting, I didn't even know how to hold the record properly. I mean, okay, I knew not to touch the grooves. I could only hold it by the label and edge, but I didn't know that there was a nice and easy way of holding it, like your thumb on the edge, and then these fingers on the label. I was holding them like this. I was using my arm to hold them to my chest and slotting them down like this into the sleeve. And until I saw people online holding it, like that, and it's like, that big moment of realization there. And don't touch the grooves. Don't touch the grooves. people say that the oil will get on the grooves and all, make it dirty and all. Well, that of course is not preferable, but the thing I'm really concerned about is when you hold it by the grooves, you may accidentally scratch the record, and you do not want to scratch your records, because most of the time these scratches are irreversible. You can see it. You can even see that there's a scratch there, you know. Even my Carole King, a Carole King Tapestry album. On the first day I bought it, I didn't hold it by the grooves. I already knew not to do that and all. I made a big mistake. What I did was I was holding the record with like at my side, but the record was facing down, like the slot was facing down. So it slipped off from the jacket, and the first side hit the ground, and then there was this nice lovely wobble as it, you know. By the time I took it up and I flipped it to side one, there was already a white sort of like oval shaped patch halfway across, so far away, and a bit into It's Too Late, which are the second and third tracks of the first side. There weren't any sonic differences. I couldn't hear anything different, but it looks ugly as hell. Like you play and then there's this big spot that's just sticking out like a sore thumb. You wouldn't want that. Of course, scratching a record isn't the same thing as dropping a record on the floor. Just to end off, because you may see some edits because there have been several interruptions in recording this video. To end off, I would just like to say, you know, happy crate digging. Hope you all find something nice in the bargain bins and all. And for any teenagers who are waiting to get into vinyl, into collecting these kind of things, sure, like I mentioned many times before, sure, go ahead. You might find it very enjoyable, just like me. Although, of course, you need to take the cost and all into, you need to think of the cost. It's not going to be cheap. This turntable was actually bought by my parents, and this turntable back in the day, I was pairing up with a boombox that had a line-in port for the TRS cable, which is basically a headphone jack cable. So back in the day I was using that with the AT-LP60, but then I got myself these pair of desktop speakers. Basically they are these two satellite speakers, and then there's a subwoofer paired up as well. Then you have a bass control, and then you can adjust the volume. And this paired up with the AT-LP60, I feel that it's a really good way to start off your record collecting journey. And also, since Audio-Technica recently introduced the AT-LP60X, which costs the same as the LP60 and has some improvements in it, so I recommend y'all buying that, because honestly I feel that the LP60X looks way nicer than the LP60, because the LP60 is pretty much almost a square shape, you know, where most turntables are like rectangular, you know. It's very nice. I do have a cassette deck, the JVC KDA55. It's right behind the camera now, actually, with the turntable and all. I suppose I could show you, but I don't really want to actually. I'm too lazy to just take up the camera and move it. So, like I said again, happy collecting. I hope people here, y'all in the vinyl community, you will enjoy and find something good, I suppose. Of course, I'll catch you all again in next videos, later videos. I do have some stuff I want to make videos about, like this thing right here, and another one of this different model. It's one of those, you know, cassette recorders, portable cassette recorders. But that'll be it for now, and I hope you enjoyed this video.